Let's chat about 10 mindful tips that actually help and actually work when it comes to your fat loss expedition. Because let's be real, you can have all the lowest calorie recipes from the world's best, and by world's best, I mean some random influencer online recipe book. But at the end of the day, you still need to practice working on eating mindfully. And just like solving this Rubik's Cube is exceptionally difficult, so can be mindful eating. And that's where these 10 tips that I'm going to share with you now about mindful eating can really help you start focusing on your hunger cues, your satiety levels, so how full you feel whilst you're eating, after you're eating. And surprise, surprise, all of that is going to help you adhere to your calorie goals, or to your nutritional plan, or to your meal plans, or whatever it is that you have. And that's going to help you progress forward in your fat loss expedition. You're probably wondering, what does this hand have to do with the video? I'm just using it to signal, number one, eat without any distractions. And what I mean by that is there's so many of you on all your social media sites and you're busy eating and you're just busy scrolling through your feed or your For You page and you're busy eating, but you're not actually focusing on what you're eating. You're focusing on what Sally from the printer is doing with her buddy and what trending dance they're busy doing. Once you finish your meal, you'll be able to tell me more about Sally from the printer and her dance moves than what you'll be able to tell me about your meal. And you need to work on changing that. To become a mindful eater pro, I want you to start eating without any distractions. No cell phones, no Netflix. Don't eat in your car whilst you're driving because you're busy focusing on the road, not on the food that you're eating. When you eat, you want your main focus to be the food that you're eating and how you are feeling when you are eating that food. You don't want the focus now to be if the traffic cop is going to pull you over or Sally from the printer, what her dance moves look like. No, your focus is your food. And that brings me to point number 2. Eat without any distractions. Those 2 points pretty much, what's that? That's not what it looks like. Those 2 points pretty much go hand in hand with one another. Eat without distractions, have a designated eating area. The combination of those 2 are really going to help you focus on the food that you're eating, how you're feeling when you are eating. Number 3. A lot of you are not going to like this, but implement a no-eat zone. And again, that pretty much goes hand in hand. Have a designated eating area. But designated eating area, I don't mean your couch, I don't mean your bed. Because once you're on your couch or in your bed, you're probably going to switch on the TV and then you're going to be distracted. And then that cancels out point number 1. Have a designated eating area, such as your kitchen counter, such as your dining room table, such as your kitchen table. And now I know many of you thinking, oh, but Mandy, I don't have those luxuries at work. That's fine. You know me, I don't stop at don't or can't. Can you create a designated eating area at work? Even if it is at your desk, but you close your laptop whilst you're eating your lunch. Or maybe you go find a little corner next to Sally and her printer where you make that your designated eating spot for 5 or 10 minutes whilst you're having your breakfast. My friends, one thing you need to learn is where there's a will, there's a way. We don't stop at can't. Oh, I can't have a designated eating area at work. No, you go and make one. And the reason why I say implement a no-eat zone is because oftentimes when you find yourself on the couch or eating in your bed, like I mentioned, that goes hand in hand with distractions. And I think you'll notice the whole point over here is focusing on the food that you are eating, focusing on how you feel whilst you are eating that food. I need to go put my fridge off because it's making a massive noise. This thing is so old, it sounds like someone trying to kickstart a donkey cart in the middle of Botswana, which has broken down due to torrential rainfall. You see now, I didn't say, oh, I can't record this video now because the fridge is making a noise. I'm like, what can I do? Let me go put the bloody thing off whilst I record this video. A lot of the times you tell yourself you can't do something because you might want to use that as an excuse to not do something. But like I said, where there's a will, there's a way. Anyway, where was I? We digress. The whole point of focusing on how you feel whilst you're eating is to start learning about when you're actually full, when you are eating your meals, so that you can move forward and actually say, you know what, I am full now, and then stop eating. And that's going to help with your calorie control at the end of the day. Number 4, eat slowly. Is a pinky broken? Eat slowly. It's not a race. Chew your food slowly so that you can actually savor the taste of the food, so that you can enjoy every single bite of that food. Make it last as long as possible. Chewing slowly and eating slowly also helps that the time passes. The more you're giving your tummy time to signal to the brain that you are full. So just eat slower when you are eating. Just start trying to eat slower. And that brings me to the next point, point number 5. Now's your time to shine, thumb. To help you eat slower, you can put down your utensils between every mouthful of food that you do take. Now I know you're probably like, oh, this is so tedious, Mandy. Well, if you want to learn about your hunger cues and control the amount of food that you're eating and stop eating when you are full, you gotta do the tedious things. I know, guys. I know it's difficult, okay? But you have to start practicing these things. I mean, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but if you want to progress forward on your health and fat loss expedition, I would strongly suggest that you start implementing even the tedious things that you don't want to do. And that brings me to point number 6. I don't have another fake hand, so I've got to use my real hand. Before we get to point number 6, now that I mentioned the words real and fake, practicing these mindful eating strategies, techniques or hacks or tips or whatever you want to call them, as you create more consistency with implementing these techniques, it's really going to help you be able to identify between real hunger or fake hunger. Again, we digress. I don't know, number 6. Try the 10-minute rule. And what I mean by that is after you've eaten, if maybe you feel a little bit peckish after your meal, give it 10 minutes. Go do something around the house. Maybe wash the dishes. I know a lot of people leave the dishes to the next morning. Do it then in that 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, assess how you feel. Maybe you need those extra 10 minutes for the signals to work. Then you start feeling full. Maybe the leftover food hasn't been packed away yet, so the visuals of the food is now telling you that you're still hungry. Pack that away, wait for 10 minutes, and then assess how you feel. If you feel you're still really hungry, dish up a little bit more food. If after 10 minutes that hunger has subsided, boom, Bob's your uncle. And then we get to point number 7. When you're eating your snacks, just be more mindful around eating your snacks. If you are going to have snacks, if you go and watch Netflix, don't take the whole packet of snacks with you to the couch. Don't eat out of the large family size packet. Have controlled portions of your snacks. So dish out of the large packet, put it in a small little container or Tupperware, and actually eat out of that. Because what happens when you eat out of the large packet, you become exceptionally not mindful at all. And all of a sudden that large packet is finished. When you've controlled your serving size and you've put it in a small container, once whatever is in that container is finished, it gives you that moment where you can pause and actually think, do I want to have more of that snack? And it can help you make a calculated choice within that moment. But if you're eating out of the large packet, there's no pause moment. There's no time to calculate your next move. The only time is when you look again and everything's finished. And then not only is there a puddle of crumbs where you've been eating these things, but there's also a puddle of regret and guilt, which you shouldn't have to feel, but most people still do. Number 8, I've lost the hand. I mean, I've still got the hands. I don't know why I said that. Log or track your food, or have at least a food journal where you write down what you've eaten. Acknowledging the food that you have eaten, it sort of helps you remember that you have eaten that food. And I know it sounds silly, but oftentimes we'll eat and then we'll forget that we've eaten. Then all of a sudden we're like, oh, have I eaten? Maybe especially if you're distracted. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, 10 minutes later or 20 minutes later, you're hungry again because you haven't sort of tracked or acknowledged what you've eaten. If you're tracking calories, awesome. If you don't want to track calories or you're not tracking calories, have a food journal, just where you write down everything that you do eat. You'll be surprised at what a difference this does make. Which brings me to the last point, point number 10. Own what you eat. As simple as that. But come back hand, that also goes hand in hand with the last point of food journaling or tracking your foods. Number 10, own what you eat. You need to hold yourself accountable for the foods that you're eating if fat loss is your goal. Oftentimes people will not write down certain foods or not log certain foods because they deem it as foods that are not good for fat loss. I'm going to let you in on a crazy secret here. The only person that you are fooling by doing that is yourself. Because whether you log the foods or whether you write those foods down in your food journal or not, you've still consumed the calories, right? Just because you're not logging it or you're not writing it down, it doesn't mean that those calories don't count. And maybe if it's something that wasn't part of the plan, instead of lying down there in that puddle of guilt, own it. Own it. Be like, you know what? Yes, I ate it. Learn from it. And implement changes if you feel there has to be changes. Now, I know these 10 tips can sound like a lot to tackle all at once, but even if you just start with one thing like journaling your food or logging your food, do that for a week or 2 weeks and then maybe tackling the next thing, like putting your phone away whilst you are eating. Maybe do that for a week or 2 weeks along with the food journaling or tracking calories. Then once you get comfortable with that, you create consistency with that, maybe look at implementing the next thing. As I'm saying all of this, I think maybe I forgot a point or I got the numbering incorrect. One thing that is super important to help you create that mindful eating moving forward would definitely be to create a solid meal frequency for yourself. So having 3 meals per day, your breakfast, lunch, your dinner, having them more or less at the same time every single day. And the way that's going to help with you being mindful, you'll start regulating your appetite hormones. So you'll start getting hungry at more or less the same time every single day when you usually have your meals. And that brings me back to identifying the fake hunger. Because now if you get hungry at 2 p.m. and you never usually have a meal at 2 p.m., you can then potentially identify it as a fake hunger and say, Sally from the printer did just piss me off. It made me slightly emotional, and this is what has triggered that fake hunger. You can then be like, I'm going to go have a word with Sally. I mean, maybe, if you want to. But you can then figure out a way forward that maybe doesn't involve turning to food as a coping mechanism. Just don't throw the printer at Sally, please.